Hi there. If you enjoy our content, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Now let's dive into history. Have you ever pondered what the might look like if the Black Death, one of history's deadliest pandemics, never happened? The 14th century was a time of dramatic upheaval in Europe. The population was skyrocketing, with roughly 70 million people designating the continent as their home. Metropolitan areas were expanding rapidly, becoming the heart of culture and trade. Commerce was thriving, with an unprecedented exchange of goods, ideas, and knowledge. It was the golden age of medieval culture where art and philosophy all prospered. Europe was ascending, with its inhabitants experiencing a level of prosperity previously unknown. It was a period of growth, progress, optimism. However, as we are all aware, this era of prosperity was short-lived. There was a menacing shadow on the horizon, a threat that would forever alter the course of history. In 1347, an uninvited guest arrived in Europe, carried by rat fleas. It was the Black Death. From the bustling ports of Sicily to the thriving markets of London, a silent killer began its deadly march. This disease, a strain of the bubonic plague, traveled along the well-worn paths of trade and commerce, carried by the fleas infesting the black rats that were so common in the cities and towns of the time. The Black Death was no respecter of status or wealth. Whether peasant or noble, merchant or cleric, none were safe from its reach. The symptoms were horrifying: fever, chills, and the appearance of painful, swollen lymph nodes or buboes, from which the disease took its name. This pandemic was like nothing Europe had ever seen before. Its speed was relentless, its impact catastrophic. As the disease spread, it left in its wake not just the dead, but the living who were left to cope with the loss of loved ones, the collapse of their communities, and the fear of the unknown. People were powerless against this invisible enemy. Without any understanding of how diseases spread, they could only watch in horror as their neighbors, their families, and their friends succumbed to the plague. In a few short years, the disease had swept across the continent, leaving devastation in its wake. The Black Death was not just a medical catastrophe, but a social and economic one, forever changing the course of European history. The effect of the Black Death was immediate and catastrophic. As fast as the disease spread, so did the profound changes it brought about. Europe, once vibrant and bustling, was now a landscape of desolation. Its cities, once teeming with life, saw their populations decimated. Fields once ripe with harvest were now deserted, the hands that tended to them gone, taken by the plague. The economy wasn't spared either. The intricate web of trade that once held the continent together was now in tatters. With the workforce drastically reduced, production came to a grinding halt. The economic systems that relied heavily on human labor collapsed under the weight of the plague. And it wasn't just the physical that bore the brunt of the pandemic. Medieval society was socially and culturally shaken to its core. The high death toll disrupted the societal order. The Black Death didn't discriminate. It took lives irrespective of social status, wealth, or power. This indiscriminate nature of the plague led to a shakeup in the social hierarchy. The cultural fabric of society was also affected. The arts, literature, and music that once flourished now reflected the despair and devastation that had befallen the people. The collective psyche of the people was scarred, and their outlook on life was forever altered. The world as they knew it had changed irreversibly. The Black Death had left its indelible mark on Europe, and the echoes of its impact can still be felt today. But the Black Death did not only bring death and destruction, it also brought change. In the wake of the Black Death, Europe was forever altered. The immediate horrors of the pandemic had faded, but the long-term consequences were just beginning to take shape. One of the most significant changes was the fundamental shift in social organization. Before the plague, Europe was dominated by a feudal system with a rigid hierarchy. The nobility owned the land, while the majority of the population, the peasants, worked it. However, the massive loss of life from the Black Death created a severe labor shortage. With fewer people to work the fields, the survivors found themselves in a position of newfound power. They could demand higher wages or better conditions, and some even rose in social status. This shift played a critical role in the decline of feudalism and the beginning of the rise of the modern state. On the cultural front, the Black Death also acted as a catalyst for the Renaissance. The pandemic had shaken society to its core, causing many to question old beliefs and seek new ways of understanding the world. This quest for knowledge spurred the intellectual and artistic revolution we now know as the Renaissance. The period saw a surge in scientific investigation, artistic creativity, and humanistic philosophy. It was a time of rebirth, rising from the ashes of the Black Death's devastation. The Catholic Church, once the unchallenged authority in spiritual and often temporal matters, was not immune to these transformations. The Church's inability to protect people from the plague and its aftermath led to a loss of faith among some believers. This disillusionment, coupled with the rise of humanistic thinking, led to a reduction in the Church's power and influence. In the end, the Black Death, while a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, also served as a catalyst for profound transformations in Europe. It is a stark reminder of how even the darkest moments in history can shape and influence the course of human civilization. The Black Death, one of history's deadliest pandemics, has left an indelible mark on human history. This catastrophic event, which ravaged Europe in the 14th century, transformed not only the continent's demographic and economic landscape, but also triggered significant social and cultural shifts. From the flourishing cities and vibrant trade of the time, Europe was thrust into a period of depopulation, economic collapse, and social upheaval. Yet, from this devastation, seeds of change were sown. The labor shortage led to improved conditions for workers, the decline of feudalism, and the rise of the modern state. Furthermore, it set the stage for the Renaissance and the transformation of the European world. The Black Death serves as a stark reminder of life's fragility and the profound impact pandemics can have on society. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content.